Hello everyone, I'm Holly Trantham, TFD's Creative Director, and welcome to our series, The New Financial Basics. This episode is going to be all about breaking free of your worst consumerist habits, even in the face of dopamine culture. But first, I want to give a quick shout out to our sponsor, Fizz. Instead of giving you out-of-touch boomer financial advice, this series is all about the financial building blocks that actually matter to our lives in the 2020s. And whether you're still in college, starting your first full-time job, or simply just getting your money together for the first time, the most important thing is to make sure you have the right tools for where you are right now. That's where Fizz comes in. Fizz is the #1 credit and money app for young adults. Whether you want to build credit, manage your money, or have no idea where to start, Fizz is there to help you every step of the way. We're obsessed with Fizz's credit building card with built-in budgeting. Unlike traditional financial institutions, Fizz doesn't stick you with any late fees, interest rates, or minimum deposits. And you don't need a credit check or cosigner to apply for a line of credit of up to $1,000, making it one of the most accessible options for people without an established credit score. Fizz also puts smart limits on your spending by connecting to your bank account so you won't go overboard, without you even having to think about it. And whatever you spend is automatically paid off from your connected bank account every day, so you don't build up a big balance over the course of the month. Take the guesswork out of your spending and join over 100,000 other members to kickstart your financial journey. Click the link in our description box and use the code TFD to get your 30-day free trial of Fizz. So first things first, what is driving our rampant overconsumption and how is it hurting us? So as anyone who has watched this channel basically any amount is probably aware of, we live in a world that is optimized for consumption over everything else. Everything from algorithmic ads to influencer hauls is engineered to trigger a dopamine rush that keeps us stuck in cycles of spending. It's why buy now, pay later apps are so successful. They make it even easier to get what we want as soon as possible. It's not just a click of a button, it's a click of a button even if you don't technically have the right amount in your bank account right now. And neuroscience shows that dopamine addiction isn't just connected to sugar or drugs. It also fuels shopping behaviors and even compulsions. The more we seek that rush, the more our brains learn to crave it. And that undermines self-control and can even tap into addictive patterns. In behavioral economics, this tendency is known as present bias. We over-prioritize immediate rewards and undervalue long-term benefits. Even if we're trying to save for something important to us, sometimes the immediate urge to spend wins. But when we talk about dopamine culture, it can be really easy to fall into that trap of blaming the victim. Yes, we're all ultimately in control of our own spending habits, but there are so many systems at play actively working against us. And what does that mean financially? Overconsumption means we're delaying certain milestone moments. We're not saving for an emergency fund like we should be. We're not prioritizing paying off debt, or we're not investing as much as previous generations. Because money that could have gone to those big future expenses vaporizes into impulse buys, which keeps corporations happy at the expense of your happiness, like those buy now, pay later apps that just want you to be stuck in that debt cycle. Simply put, spending money is fun and saving money isn't. At least not instantly. But having that kind of financial short-sightedness can cost us years of progress. Which means that now comes the real work, learning to embrace and maybe even love delayed gratification, even in a world of dopamine addiction. In a now famous psychological study called the Stanford Marshmallow Test, psychologists asked children to choose between 1 treat now or 2 treats if they waited, measuring their ability to delay gratification. It became one of psychology's most famous studies on self-control. And the research showed that the kids who opted for more marshmallows later on often developed better academic, emotional, and financial outcomes later in their lives. Delayed gratification means resisting something even small now for something potentially much bigger later. Behavioral science calls it delay discounting. And building that muscle pays off financially, but also, as we saw with the marshmallow study, psychologically. And building this skill doesn't have to feel like deprivation. One study found that people who never use their special items, like fancy candles or wine, end up in what's dubbed a specialness spiral, where nothing is ever used and ultimately joy is drained. Being overly disciplined can actually have a cost to your well-being. You need to use the fancy glasses. But how do we actually put learning to love delayed gratification into practice? One way is to set really vivid, emotionally connected goals. So instead of saying, I'm going to save $50, envision the freedom that that $50 is going to give you. Maybe it means not being taken aback by a surprise car repair you need next year, or the accomplishment of investing for a year. You can also use cooling strategies, especially if you're super prone to emotional or impulse spending. These can help you actively reframe your temptations. So say you want a new, really clean pair of white leather sneakers. Picture them in a few months. Do they still look that new and fresh and as you want them to look? Or do they look exactly like the dingy, beat up sneakers that you currently have on your feet? If you're not the kind of person who's going to actively take care of them, maybe it's not the right purchase for you. Because the joy lies in having that shiny new thing, which is going to be fleeting, especially if you, again, are not going to take care of it to the point where you maybe even stop wearing the sneakers once they start looking kind of messy. Be honest with yourself and your behaviors, and know when things are marketed as an investment, that might not be true for you, especially if you're not the kind of person who's going to maintain those things over time. Next is reward yourself, but do it mindfully. Don't skip out on giving yourself little rewards when you reach certain milestones, but keep what counts as a reward in check. That could be just buying one lipstick from Ulta rather than doing a whole haul. Could also mean breaking out those fancy wine glasses. And finally, we often recommend unsubscribing from store emails so you are not overly tempted by sales, which feels counterintuitive because it seems like the way to save money would be to never pay full price for things. But actually, sales end up getting us all to spend more money. They're not saving you any money. They're just getting you to spend something, and often something that you maybe weren't planning to spend in the first place. It doesn't matter how much of a good deal something was if it wasn't in your budget to begin with. It's much better to budget strategically for something you need to buy or even want to buy, rather than letting the allure of a can't-miss sale sweep you into FOMO-fueled spending that you weren't otherwise planning. Now, those are some tips for learning to embrace delayed gratification, and I would also encourage you to create your own FOMO-free hierarchy of needs and try to work to internalize it. So Maslow's hierarchy of needs comes up quite a bit in the personal finance space. The idea is that you need to take care of the base of the pyramid, i.e. your fundamental needs like housing and food, before you have the mental energy to be able to focus on the next levels in ascending order. So a FOMO-free hierarchy would be assessing your own needs and separating them out from distractions. And when you're just starting out on your financial journey, this could help clarify what to prioritize on a financial, practical, and emotional level. So level 1, the base of your pyramid, would be your baseline essentials: rent, healthy food, reliable transportation, your mental and physical health. Anything that's a non-negotiable. Level 2, one up from that, would be your financial stability, long-term savings, and investments. Level 3 would be everyday enjoyments, affordable, simple pleasures that recharge you. Perhaps coffee with a friend, a secondhand book, or fresh flowers. Think of these as things that you ultimately never regret spending money on because they fill you up. Level 4, aspirational spending. Big picture spending you're saving for, like a big hobby class, a major vacation, a house down payment, or even a quality piece of technology like a laptop that will serve you for years. And then level 5, trend-based FOMO. Listen, we're all just a girl. We all just want a little treat. When you've made room for the rest of the pyramid, you can probably create space for a quarterly wardrobe overhaul, or impromptu subscriptions or impulse buys pushed by drops or a limited time only. And you could even take this a step further and draw out your own pyramid and tape it up next to your desk, filling up each level with your values-driven spending priorities. And then lean into your pyramid. When you want to spend money, ask yourself, does this impulse purchase fit in with my needs, my joy, or my long-term goals? And if not, it's likely just fueling your FOMO rather than your actual needs or fulfillment. And studies show that FOMO can actually lower life satisfaction, raise anxiety, and push us into mindless overspending to keep up with social media perfection. A 2017 study correlated more daily social media use with a higher chance of having an anxiety disorder, while a 2022 study suggests depressive and anxious symptoms worsen the longer we spend on social media. While social media likely isn't going anywhere anytime soon, how we use it and how often we use it certainly has a direct impact on our ability to experience FOMO. And if you're experiencing those types of symptoms or just excessive FOMO from being on social media a lot, that's your cue to start filtering. Use ad blockers, mute Instagram or TikTok shop pages, and actively schedule activities that take you out into the real world and away from your phone, or even just doing something with your hands. And start focusing on what truly aligns with your values rather than scrolling. Breaking your worst consumer habits isn't about depriving yourself. It's about realigning with what actually brings you lasting satisfaction. And the peace of knowing that your money is working towards those long-term goals, not falling into dopamine traps. And you can start really small. If you look back at your spending, you can maybe identify one impulse purchase last week that didn't end up serving you. And maybe you can celebrate that awareness and help yourself not make the same kind of impulse purchase in the future. Practice just a tiny delay before buying something and internalize that hierarchy of needs that you created for yourself. And I'll see you back here next week for our last installment of the New Financial Basics. Bye!